Well, let's go ahead and get started. On my front page slide here, you see a link. If we can go back to the front page slide, you see that link. That is a very informative link. In fact, that provided the foundation of the briefing slides that I have. So if you have questions, I can't answer them because I am not a claims officer. Please go to that link and that will give you more information. Let's move on to the next slide, please. Okay, you see my background there, and I will emphasize a couple things on this slide. I work in the legislative affairs, the policy end of my organization. I'm not a claims officer, so I'm not a practitioner. So I saw in the questions emailed to me before the presentation, a lot of them are very technical in nature, asking very specific things about claims and claims process. Hopefully I can steer you in this presentation to the right people to get those questions answered. But just remember that I'm not a claims officer. And any opinion or comments that I make, those are mine and mine alone, not my organization's. Okay, we can go on to the next slide, please. Okay, let's talk about claims for the next couple slides. And first of all, I encourage all veterans to file a claim. And you might think, well, there's nothing wrong with me, or I'm not going to take from somebody else. No, you earn the right to file a claim. So I tell everybody, file a claim. If you think you're perfectly fine right now, go ahead and get it on record, connect with the VA, because you don't know what might happen with some of your conditions as time goes on. And if something worsens as time goes on, at least you'll already be in the VA system. So I encourage everybody to file a claim, but I also tell everybody, don't do it by yourself. You might think, well, I can figure this out. How hard could it be? Believe me, it can be very difficult. So don't do it yourself. There's lots of help out there. And here are some options to connect with a veteran service officer or somebody at the VA to help you put together that claim correctly and easily and as quickly as possible. So you can go through a veteran service organization like mine, the VFW, American Legion, Disabled American Veterans, etc., or go to your state or your county Department of Veterans Services, Veterans Affairs, and ask for help in locating a service officer near you. Or you can go to your VA regional office and ask for their MST outreach coordinator, and they should be able to help you as well. And all these people I just listed are accredited by VA to prepare, present, and prosecute a claim before the VA. And that's a very important definition. I took that right out of code, which means these people are officially recognized by the VA to do claims work. And they file initial claims at no charge. So we can go on to the next slide, please. Okay. Don't go to one of these unaccredited claims companies or claims consultants that you might see advertised on TV, come up on your social media feeds, see them on billboards, and they typically promise they can do things quicker, better, faster, stronger than a VA or a veteran service organization because they do it in mass, so they're somehow better and they can make the system work faster. That's not true at all. They are unaccredited, which means that they cannot legally do what the people on the previous slide could. VA doesn't recognize them. These are just people. They can't do for you properly and legally what the people on the first slide can. And to get around that caveat, they often describe their services as coaching or consulting. And some have agreements with medical providers that provide questionable medical evidence trying to substantiate claims. They unfortunately try to cut corners. They charge a lot for this coaching or consulting service. Typically, they'll charge you 5 times the increase in your benefits award. And just do some math in your head, a small increase times 5. Suddenly, that's a pretty big fee. And probably the most important thing, this is why I tell people, do not deal with these unaccredited claims people, coaches, consultants, whatever they call themselves, because if there's any fraud in your claim, no matter what it is, it could be something you don't even recognize as fraud, but if VA sees it and VA recognizes it, you're the one held liable, not that claims consultant or claims coach. It's kind of like using H&R Block to do your taxes. If you get audited, H&R Block will come with you and represent you before the IRS because they can. Well, these people are the exact opposite. They cannot do that. They cannot represent you before VA. So anything wrong with that claim that's questionable, that's fraudulent, that comes back on you, and you could be held liable for the claim that somebody else put in there, unbeknownst to you in some cases. So that's my advice with claims. So please go on to the next slide, please.
Before the next slide, we just had a quick question of
Okay, sure.
do Wounded Warriors count as an accredited organization?
I think going off my memory, I think they are. In fact, I think that we, the VFW, actually provide their training for them. See, with an accredited representative, those people go through a standardized training program. They get a background check, they get continuing education, and they get monitored by VA to make sure that they're doing this in accordance with regulations. So those are all the advantages that an accredited representative has. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Wounded Warrior Project falls into that boat. Okay, let's next talk about military sexual trauma, MST, and claims. Okay, for these claims, typically the claim is post-traumatic stress disorder that the claimant attributes to an MST event or some other covered mental health conditions such as depression and others that VA is somewhat broadening this definition, but attributable to an MST that occurred in service. And to make these claims work, you have a condition that you're claiming, and you are attributing it to something that happened in service. You need to provide evidence to connect those two pieces of your claim together. My condition and the event that happened to me in service that caused that condition. The evidence connects those two things together. So VA now takes a lot of different types of evidence. They'll take the traditional, what I'll call direct evidence examples, such as service treatment records. You had MST, you went to medical in the military, and it's in your medical record. That obviously is a piece of evidence. Could be something in your military personnel records. It could be a command investigation, police report, statement from clergy, family members, roommates, all documenting that incident. Somebody you told contemporaneously, notes that they wrote down, if they can substantiate your claim. Civilian police reports, if the police were involved, also military police reports, and so forth. Medical reports from civilian providers. Those are all examples of the traditional types of evidence to substantiate a claim. Let's move on to the next slide, please. Okay, now VA is understanding more and more that a lot of people, excuse me just a second. A lot of
While
people,
you've paused, can I jump in with another question from the chat?
sure, sure.
Sure. So, if an unrestricted report was made at the Academy, when making an MST claim, would the VA already have access to that report?
I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know. But VA does have a duty to assist you with your claim also. The claims process is non-adversarial. So VA is there to help you get that claim put together also, to help you get evidence and so forth. So it's very possible that they could easily get that for you. Just tell them what happened. But they are recognizing more and more that, like I said, the traditional evidence sometimes is not available because somebody may not have reported the incident, may not have gone to medical, may not have told the chain of command, so there's no command investigation, there's no police report, no military police report, and so forth. So VA now accepts what it calls indirect evidence, and that is a varied list of different types of evidence. And in the next couple of slides, let's have some examples of those. For example, if you had documented changes in your work performance that you can't explain any other way besides, I had this traumatic event happen to me and my performance fell off the cliff. They'll take that as evidence that this event happened. If you have changes in eating or weight, or you have requests for a sudden transfer, or you had a STD exam come back positive, or you had a sudden divorce, or substance use problems that you weren't previously having those kind of problems, this event happens, and suddenly you are now abusing alcohol, we'll say, or abusing drugs. If you can provide evidence of those types of events, VA will take that and they call that indirect evidence. So that can help substantiate your claim as well. But working with your veteran service officer, that's why I said don't try to do this by yourself. Go get some help, and they can help guide you through this process as well and help you figure out what types of evidence you have available to yourself and what would be good to help substantiate your claim. Okay, let's move on to the next.
Ma'am, just
Yes,
going
yeah.
back to the MST claim from the Academy, Lori Kennedy has information on that. I didn't know she wanted to either put basic information in the chat to answer it, give out her information, or just
I can give a
speak up
quick
now.
answer. Hello, everyone. Yes, I am a sexual assault medical forensic examiner currently, and I am on the watch bill at Balboa. But what I've learned is that whether it's restricted or unrestricted, we work with the emergency department, and there will be a Genesis patient encounter, but it's not titled as a sexual assault or anything like that. It's a evaluation that takes place in the emergency to basically just clear the medical needs. And so that will be there in the medical record regardless. But as far as like the forensic exam and the details of the assault, none of that is provided in any platform or saving system that the VA will have access to. That literally will be either handed off to NCIS and then just like sitting on a shelf somewhere until if it decided to escalate the legal system, but VA would not have access to the actual sexual assault.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that information. Thank you. And here's another slide with some more examples of indirect evidence. So if you can show symptoms of these conditions as well, that could be used as evidence to help substantiate your claim. Again, I can't say this enough. Get yourself a veteran service officer to help you through this claims process, and they can help guide you through what kind of evidence you have available to yourself, what kind of evidence could be developed, and what would be best kind of evidence to help substantiate your particular claim. So it's just a couple slides of evidence. And now I'm going to move on to the legislation that's currently pending that would help codify some of this. Okay, now there are some bills in the Congress right now, and that's the end in which I work, is the legislative end. There are some bills currently in Congress that were introduced this session that, if passed, would codify some of the things I mentioned on the previous couple slides, and codify VA's procedural changes and improve the claims process. It would codify that list of indirect evidence. It would codify some definitions of MST and so forth. So in the House right now, we have HR 2201, Improving VA Training for Military Sexual Trauma Claims Act. And that mostly focuses on training for claims processors and healthcare professionals who schedule exams for MST survivors and claimants. So they learn how to elicit information that they need for the claim to substantiate the claim without continually re-traumatizing the survivor. That's really the theme of this particular bill. So if passed, that would codify VA's training for its own personnel. If we go on to the next slide, I'll show you the next couple bills there. And this is my last slide that we'll go to hopefully some easy questions there. And we have one bill in the Senate, Service Members and Veterans Empowerment and Support Act of 2025, also known as the SAVE Act of 2025, and its House companion, HR 2576, Senate bill introduced by Senator Blumenthal from Connecticut, House bill introduced by Representative Pingree from Maine. And what this bill would do, if passed, it would update the definition of MST. And in that bill, this updated definition includes cyber crimes, cyberbullying, more modern definition of MST. So it broadens the definition of MST a bit. It would codify that evidentiary support on those slides I just showed you, and also improve the communication flow between the claimant, VA healthcare, and VA benefits personnel. So a claimant, the survivor, could go to the VA Health Administration, VHA, and make a complaint, get healthcare, and VHA would give that person the contact information for the MST coordinator in Veterans Benefits Administration, so that person could now be helped to get the benefits process started. Then conversely, if the person first went to the benefits people in VBA and announced that he or she wanted to file a claim, the MST coordinator there would give that person information for the MST coordinator at the VHA, so they can make sure that person gets adequate medical care. So this bill would smooth out that communication flow back and forth as well. So those are the couple pieces of legislation pending in Congress. And those are the numbers, and you can track these yourself, and you can watch these things as they move through the Congress. The Congress is getting ready to end its first session here in December, but it'll pick back up again in January. And these bills, if not passed before the end of the year, will still be active in the 119th Congress. And that is my last slide. We go on to my question slide. And anybody have any questions?